Examiner Editor-in-Chief Hugo Gurdon. Hugo, what do you make of this? But Sinema and Manchin were called to the White House last night, but that hadn't worked so far.
Yeah, what we're watching now, Dagan, is a kind of political kabuki theater. The truth is that strange shouty performance that you saw from President Biden yesterday was basically an admission that he knows that he's not going to get this voting bill change, and he knows that he's not going to get the filibuster change. Remember that we've just entered an election year, and the polls look really bad for Biden, look really bad for the Democrats. So what we're watching here is the Democrats trying to make it look, trying to appeal both to their base and to minority voters. That really disgraceful speech, as James Freeman was saying that in Atlanta on Tuesday, in which the president compared Republicans and his own opposition Democrats to George Wallace, Bull Connor, Jefferson Davis, all whom, by the way, were racist Democrats, comparing opposition to those people in a horribly demagogic speech was a repeat of what the Democrats are doing, which is constantly accusing their opponents of being racist. That's because they're trying to stop minority voters from continuing their slide away towards the Republican Party. On Capitol Hill, what we're watching is further kabuki. Chuck Schumer knows that he's not going to get this through the Senate. The majority of the Senate opposes both the bill and opposes the vandalism of changing the filibuster. So what he's doing is bringing it up for votes. He's trying to prove not only to minority voters that the Democrats are on their side, they're also, both he and the president, trying to appeal to the radical left wing of the Democratic Party to show they're really angry, they're passionately committed to this, and they're going to really try it. It's all theater so that they can enter this coming election season by saying, we're on the side of racial minorities, and we're really trying to do the radical left-wing stuff that the militants want us to do.
Over and over again, there's this disconnect in the White House and with Biden and company about who got him elected, and about what the priorities are for the American people, the moderates and the independents. They just voted to take down the volume, so to speak. And it wasn't the far left that put Biden in the top job in the first place. And you talked about that speech down in Georgia. So the Washington Post has given President Biden 4 Pinocchios: liar, 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 is how I'd describe it, for claiming he was arrested as a teenager while attending a civil rights protest in Delaware. They write, quote, the primary source for this story is Biden. We've learned over the years that he's not always a reliable source, not just about his past experience, but he invoked the name of George Wallace, like you side with Martin Luther King Jr. or George Wallace. Biden once bragged about Wallace's praise of him, Biden. Hugo?
Yeah, I think this 4 Pinocchios was quite significant. Nancy Pelosi described that speech as fabulous. I think she got her words mixed up. She should have called it fabulist, because, President Biden, throughout 50 years in public life, has been falsified things, been a total fabulist. When you plagiarize other people's speeches and law papers, as he's done, when you lie about how your resume and embellish your resume, basically what you're revealing in your character is that you're not really up to it. You're not really what you need to be. And and it's very significant, it seems to me, even if the Washington Post perhaps doesn't sort of think this of itself, is that it perhaps is starting to come to the conclusion that Joe Biden is a liability. The fact that they would take up something like this strange fabricated speech or fabrication about being arrested, which he said before, do their 4 Pinocchios on it, shows that they are seeing him as a liability as well.
He can't not lie. And it's at every turn, and it's people in his administration as well. I could sit here and talk for a half an hour about all the things that he said that were easily checkable. And
Right.
I think that's why his approval rating is where it is. When you target people doing their job at the border and say to the American people that they were strapping people or that was his word, whipping them, and it was a lie, and they deserve an apology. If he could just in one instance stand up and say, I was wrong, and I should not have vilified them that way for putting their lives on the line and doing the job and enforcing the law of our land. But he won't do that. Hugo Gurdon, he's worried about Ocasio-Cortez, I guess. Hugo Gurdon, great to see you. Always,
Thank you,
sir.
Dagan.
Thank you.